That angry speed he had, man. He ran, I used to say that dude runs with anger, you know?
Yeah.
He runs
Yep.
violently when I mean in the heart of his career when he was his best. I mean, he just ran with like that mentality like you are not going to pull me down,
Mhm.
you know?
Hey everyone, welcome to D.R.E.A.M.S Podcast, Locker Room to Reality, Discipline, Respect, Education, Accountability, Maturation, and Success. The gentleman we have on today embodies all of those things and more. Just a true warrior is how I would explain this gentleman. I got my lovely co-host, Mr. Jackie Mitchell. How you doing?
Doing great, my man. Thank
Happy
you.
birthday, sir. Happy birthday. It's a birthday
Hey, man.
edition.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Another year around the sun, man. You got a chance and a choice to make a difference. Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
So before I introduce this gentleman, man, I have to just rattle off a couple of things. It's just a very unique individual, man, and I feel we're so honored to have him on. You know, I had the pleasure of lining up in the huddle with this guy, and he just has something in his eyes when you get in the huddle with him that you just believe. But just to kind of rattle off a couple of things: 4-time CFL All-Star, 4-time NFL Pro Bowler, only one of 18 quarterbacks to throw 30 touchdowns back-to-back seasons. So for all you young bucks, the most recent guy to do it is Joe Burrow, right? So that's the type of company this guy sits in. And 5 CFL seasons. And just for you guys know, it's not easy to make a CFL team. It's 40. It's I think 41 roster spots, and it's half and half. So it's probably harder to make a CFL roster than an NFL roster. To speak the truth, 11 NFL seasons, 43,307 passing yards, 281 TDs. That's total in his professional career. And guess what? Just under 5,000 yards rushing and 50 touchdowns rushing as well. But his most I would say significant accomplishment, amazing father to 4 beautiful kids. Mr. Jeff Garcia, what's going on, buddy?
Absolutely.
That, Scott. Happy birthday, Jackie. My boy just celebrated one a couple days ago as well. So, that's awesome. But appreciate you guys having me on. And, we have a lot of similarities in our past with CFL and NFL. And like you said, it's not easy to make any sort of professional roster. And the CFL having that basically roster breakdown of half of them have to be Canadian, half have to be from the US, or that's the spots that are given. It's not easy. And I remember just looking at the talent that played up in the CFL while I was up there. And I'm like, some of these guys can definitely play in the NFL, but it's just, where is the opportunity being given? And when the opportunity is given, are they ready to strike and take advantage of it? And that really what differentiates those guys who are on the bubble, those guys who play in other leagues, from those guys who are playing in the NFL. There's not a whole lot of difference in the talent. I mean, there are guys that are very talented that aren't in the NFL. And for whatever reason, either they've blown it themselves, or they weren't ready when the opportunity struck, or they just somehow slipped through the cracks. And we know how that could happen as well. And so, I was blessed to be able to play in both leagues. I didn't have the opportunity coming out of college to go to the NFL. I was looked at as undersized. I didn't have this, I didn't have that. And, it may be a different story with me coming out today, because I'm much more the prototype than what I was 20 plus years ago. Back then, they all wanted Troy Aikman, Testaverde. They wanted 6'5", 225 pocket passer, and obviously there were a few guys out there like Steve Young, Randall Cunningham. There were some guys that were defying the odds with being playmakers and being able to play not only inside the pocket, but also outside the pocket, which is how quarterbacks are expected to play today.
Yeah.
It's a great output. That's a great outlook, Jeff. And I have to add to that. Your opinion, as you stated, if you look at the game 20 years ago, as some of the quarterbacks that you named, the Dante Culpeppers, yourself, I'm going to throw in the Ronald Cunningham, like you said, like what's the difference in approaching offensively with quarterbacks and athletes nowadays than the yesteryear? Because like you say, yesteryear was like you say, the 6'5" pocket passers, but they also did the things to protect the quarterbacks. You being a mobile quarterback, how do you view that from when you were in the league until today's time?
Yeah, I think what they want to do is put pressure on defenses, not only vertically, but horizontally, right? Force the defense to cover sideline to sideline, as well as line of scrimmage to goal line. And that's what the guys like Patrick Mahomes, like some of these great quarterbacks today, they force you to cover the entire field. And with the defensive athletes that there are today, and the D line and the D ends, the beasts that these guys are, and going against offensive linemen and the way offenses are trying to spread out the defense, hey, going 3-4 wides, single back. You don't hear about a fullback much anymore. It's just a different game. And the expectation for that quarterback is to be able to not only make great decisions from within the pocket, but also utilize the run game to create bootlegs, to create movement, to get outside of the defensive end, and also to attack the line of scrimmage, to become a threat as a ball carrier as well. And I think that's just what the NFL has really developed into. And so they're looking for that more athletic guy to lead their team. And we see it with Jalen winning the Super Bowl last year. I mean, you look at the quarterbacks who have won the Super Bowls over the past few years, obviously Mahomes being one, but even when you look at the 49ers, Brock Purdy, he has a sneaky way of creating and lengthening plays and attacking the line of scrimmage and getting positive runs with his feet. And, and then you look at the Buffalo Bill quarterback. The guy is just a beast, and he wants to take on defenders when he's running the ball, Josh Allen. And so you see just that not only certain guys have obviously the physical traits, the size, but they're just better athletes today than what they were back then. And the training starts when these guys are young, man. I never had private coaching. I never had one-on-one teaching or practice. I was in from one sport to the next to the next. I mean, whatever was in season, we were playing it. But nowadays, every game has become a year-round preparation. Even football, as much as they may not play year-round, the expectation is that you're training year-round. And so those sort of things have really changed the game, changed the athletes that are playing the game. Just when you thought that nobody could get bigger, faster, stronger, somehow they do. It's just amazing. I mean, when you look at the field, the football field, I mean, playing in the CFL, we saw how big that field was, the width, the length. Now you had one extra player on each side of the ball, but creating more space was definitely a positive thing for the offense. And I think it also potentially limited some of the head-on or immediate collisions that happen in the NFL or in the American game. And when you think about when those dimensions of the field were developed, they were developed darn near 100 years ago by a bunch of slow white guys who weren't covering the field like they are today. And you look at the game of football, you look at the game of basketball, how the players and their development have now outgrown the dimensions of the court and the football field. And, I think that's where the game could potentially adapt and adjust. I don't know if it ever will, but these athletes are phenomenal. And we see the size of them today. I mean, you look at Garrett from Cleveland. I mean, the guy is a chiseled rock at 280 pounds, breathing down your neck. I remember Julius Peppers was that guy for
Oh,
me. 6'8". The guy
yeah.
played basketball at North Carolina. And I mean, was chiseled, ripped. And here he comes off the edge trying to run me down. I'm like, damn, I need to get away from this guy. Y'all got to avoid him, man. I mean, he was on my mind all game long, just with the beast
Yeah.
that he was, right? But that being said, the game has just changed, and it's really focused on having that athleticism as well as the skill set mentally to process the game, right? Because at the end of the day, you better know what the heck you're doing, especially at the quarterback position, in order to be successful. But it helps if you have a little wiggle to you to be able to escape, get away, buy time, put pressure on defenses in other ways.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I also just to add to that, Jeff. Can you imagine? Something just came to me. If you were with your skill set, if you were coming up in this era, oh my God, you would have doubled what you did, because it's kind of like similar to, let's say you and let's say a Michael Vick. You guys were in a West Coast offense, and they wanted you to stay in the pocket, and then you created your runs. Where today they're designing the offensive systems around the quarterback strengths. With you never ran a read option. Had that option, you took it, you pulled it down and took off. Right? Can you imagine? Oh my God! I just thought about that. I was just because I remember in practice when we were in San Francisco, we would work on the Scrabble drill a lot.
Sure.
That was our I guess our running for the QB. But yeah, that's the biggest difference that I see is now, and I think it started with RG3 was the first guy I seen where they kind of Kyle Shanahan and those guys designed that offense, and they start running that read option, and everyone started doing it. They start, okay, maybe Lamar Jackson, maybe we'll design offense around his strengths and not make him stay in the pocket. Right. So
Absolutely.
I can just imagine.
That's just being a smart coach, right? Looking at your player's skill set and how can we maximize this guy's abilities on the field. Too often times the ego gets in the way and you're going to do it my way and this is my offense and I expect you to run it exact. Well, shoot, this guy may not be a great fit for your offense, but he's here for a reason because there's something about him that's special. Now, what can you do to bring that out in him? You look at just how the RPOs, that part of the game, the run pass option, all those things that have come into the game. I'm coaching high school football now, and we're talking about RPOs, and I'm like, you're going to have to get up on the board and really demonstrate this to me because I didn't grow up in an RPO type of offense. I ran a West Coast system. Now, obviously, I want to use our running game to build the passing game, play action, movement, get our quarterback out of the pocket. And that's why for many years, I wanted to play for Shanahan, the dad, in Denver because of how he utilized the pocket inside and out. He got those players because of their run game and that zone run that they ran so well. And no matter who you plugged in at running back, they were getting
1,000-yard rusher.
yards. Then he built the movement game off of that. And you'd see Jake Plummer, you'd see John Elway getting outside the pocket, nobody around, like completely fooling the defense, but it came off of their run game. And the Shanahans did such a great game of starting to develop the movement for the quarterbacks and getting them outside the pocket, getting them in different setup points so DNs couldn't just pin their ears back and go to that 7-yard spot at the back in the middle of the pocket and get to the QB. They really started to make the defense have to think and adjust and adapt. And that's why they were successful, and so today, and look at the screen game today. Look how many completions are just quick, simple, out of your hands, throw it to the sideline to a wide receiver or I watch the 49ers a lot. They use Kittle, they use all their weapons in the screen game. And I mean, there's 5 to 10 completions a game that are thrown behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
They've really developed the game in that way to where you get a lot more highly efficient passes, but you have athletes and blocking schemes that are set up to be successful and create yards after the catch. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, no, man. Great insight. Well, we can, man. We can. It's funny, man. Obviously, we'll talk. We can talk X's O's all day. You know, three football guys here, but we'll dive into a couple of questions, man, and go back and forth. Let's take it back. You know, junior college can be a very difficult time. I find for athletes because you're almost in no man's land. You know, you don't. You know, you're taking a gamble. And most of the guys who go to junior college, obviously, you didn't either get recruited or there was some academic issues or whatnot. But it can be a difficult time because because I think also you're seeing your other buddies who receive Division I, you know, scholarships and whatnot. So take us back to your time at Gavilan Junior College days, and you know, how did that experience prepare you for San Jose State?
Yeah, you know, coming out of high school. So, first of all, I was getting some letters after my junior year. Not a lot of schools, but schools knew of me. I was getting some interest. My senior year, I go into my football season, fourth game of the year, I fracture my left elbow on the literally the long jump pit, the sand pit on the sidelines of football fields was lined with cement, and I landed elbow first. So that being said, I missed half the season. So any sort of recruiting that came my way my junior year really just disappeared. I had my father, who was the head football coach at Gavilan Junior College in my hometown. So I grew up being a part of that program, being the ball boy, idolizing the players that played for my dad, watching my dad coach and how he just inspired people on the field. And so I didn't look at it as a negative thing. I looked at it as a way to continue to grow, mature, develop, get better, play for my dad one last time, and see what happens after that 1 year. I was just going to play 1 year of junior college football. If that was enough for colleges to look interested in me, then I was going to have the opportunity to leave after 1 year. Bunch of my buddies from high school, coming from a small town, we didn't have a lot of guys being recruited. So I had a handful of buddies from high school that went there with me at Gavilan. So we just continued somewhat the legacy of playing for the hometown team. And it really paid off in a great way for many of us. Many of us did get those collegiate opportunities, whether it was Division I, 1AA, or Division II. We went on after that year or two at Gavilan. But for me, it gave me a chance to play for my dad in a system like we talked about earlier that fit me. The year before I played for my dad, he ran a veer read option style of offense because his quarterback was a runner. And that's the type of quarterback he had. He wasn't a passer, he wasn't a pocket guy. He had the abilities of a running back, so they ran the veer option. Well, he knew it was going to be different for me stepping on the field for him. So back then, Washington State under Mike Price and Drew Bledsoe, they started running a 4 receiver spread type of offense, spreading the defense out. So my dad went up to Washington State, attended a clinic on the spread offense, and when he came back to Gavilan, that's what we instilled. We put in the spread offense, and we didn't have a lot of depth. We had some good little receivers. We had one tight end who got injured the first game, so we went from being a 11 package to a 10 package, basically. And you know, it worked out great, man. I threw the quick game, I threw the drop back game. We ran some of the fly offense out of it with the jet sweep, and then we would also run um, a read option where I would either just read the end and either give it or I would keep it, and I wouldn't have a pitch guy all the time. It would just be a read on the end, and oftentimes that end, because we didn't show a pitch guy, would just crash on down on that dive, and I'd be around the corner and nobody looking at me, nobody seeing me, you know. So it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun, put up some good numbers, went to a bowl game, was MVP of the bowl game. I threw for 3, I ran for 3. I mean, it was a shootout. And then that opened doors at the next level with San Jose State being the 30-mile away team, the local team. I had a couple other offers from Wyoming and Utah, but at the time I just wanted to stay close to home. And San Jose State had a good program. They were winning games and they were highly recruiting the JCs so that they could compete right away. So at that time, the JC thing for me was a blessing. It worked out awesome. I had a lot of fun playing for my dad, playing with some of my high school buddies still, and winning a lot of football games, which opened up the door for that next step for me and the next opportunity.
Yeah, sounds like that was a good experience for you. Like, you know what? We see that show. What was that show on Netflix?
Oh
Last
yes,
chance, Last Chance You.
chance
So
you.
when I see junior college, I'm like, whoa, you know. But your experience, I didn't realize that was pretty awesome. You got to play for your dad. You still got to play with some of your buddies close to home. So yeah, and he turned. It sounds like he went when he went and got that offense from Washington State. That really helped out running the read
Oh,
option. Sounds like he should have been your offensive coordinator your whole career.
man, I'm telling you, he tried when I went through basically 3 head coaches at San Jose State, right? So the
Yeah,
guy that
yeah,
recruited me there got fired before I even stepped foot on ground. Claude Gilbert. They fired him. And the reason why they fired him was because the new athletic director wanted to focus more on high school recruiting. And Claude was like, we can't compete if we just go after the high school kids. We're not
yeah.
going to get the best high school kids. They're not ready to play until they're juniors anyways, because of the kids that
Mm-hmm.
we'd probably get interested in us. We
Yeah.
have to go the JC route. And the
Mm-hmm.
AD didn't like it and fired him. So I ended up playing redshirting 1 year and then playing 1 year under Terry Shea. He left to Stanford. Then in came Ron Turner, Norv Turner's brother, who's been an NFL coach forever. Ron Turner came in, coached me for 1 year. He left to the Chicago Bears. And now I was going under literally my fourth head coach in 4 years. And so my dad was like, shoot, I'm going to throw my name in the hat. I know all the JC coaches. I know all the high school coaches in the area. He's a great recruiter. He's a great man, fundraiser, all the things, a hustler, loves his players. They love him back. And the AD didn't take him seriously. And it was a shame because I think my dad would have been awesome for the program. Instead, they brought in an old hat who was way beyond his years. They brought him in to just bring like some attention to the program because back then that's when Long Beach State was folding,
Yep.
Fullerton State was
Yep.
folding, UOP was folding. All the state schools in California were struggling to maintain their football programs, and
Mm-hmm.
San Jose State was on the brink. We were on the brink of folding as well, and they brought in John Ralston, who was a college football Hall of Fame coach and coach in the NFL, but he had been retired for 10, 15 years. He'd been out of the game. And he came back as kind of like an awareness, raise some money, keep the program afloat. But his really not his understanding of the game, but just more so his ability to relate to the players at that time had kind of passed him by. And some of the
Mm-hmm.
people he brought with him just weren't a good fit. And so we struggled my senior year, but my dad would have been a great coach, man, for the collegiate level, especially a place like San Jose State where they needed a guy in there who's going to be stable, who's not looking to use it as a stepping stone to the next college or next professional opportunity. And it's a shame that they didn't take advantage of that back then. But that being said, man, he's probably one of the best, if not the best coaches that I ever played for. And I'm not just saying that because he's my dad. He really looked at the skill set that he had within his team and developed a program offensively, defensively, special teams to cater to their best abilities. And that's why a small college, small JC like his was able to be competitive and succeed.
There you go. Jackie, before you take over, I don't know if you knew this, Jackie, Terrell Davis went to Long Beach State. Jeff was just talking about those California schools shutting down, and that's how he ended up at Georgia.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
But you know, David Benefield and also Damon Allen also went to school in California too.
Yeah.
You know, so what he's saying, I totally understand. And like he said, back in those days when, you know, we were coming, JCs were huge. Like he said, because of the age, the maturity, like you can't win with a high school kid. You just couldn't. And coaches need it right then and right now. So I totally understand what he's saying, man, because, you know, I almost went to a JC, you know, but mine was in Maine. So I wasn't going to Maine. I was I ain't doing that.
That's
back then in the 70s, 80s, 90s, the California JUCO system was strong, man.
It was
You had
heavy. It was heavy.
great competition in Southern
Yep.
California. Then you had San Francisco City College, which was a national powerhouse. I mean, these teams had athletes from all over the country because major colleges
Absolutely.
were trying to hide players, right?
They was hiding them.
You
Exactly.
can't get into our program right now, but we're going to send you out to Taft in the middle of nowhere,
Exactly.
Bakersfield. Oh, it's in California. It's by the ocean. Yeah, it's 3 hours from the ocean. But you're going to
Yep.
get out there. You're going to see a lot of sand around you. Yeah, it's called the
Right.
desert, and
Yeah.
you're going to play football there. But they had some great football teams, man. And I think it went it got to a point where for high school kids they saw it as kind of an embarrassment to go to a JC, and I'm like, why? You get 2 years of education out of the way. You get to still be potentially a starter and prove yourself and develop and mature. Now it's different if you have the offers to go on and play, but if you don't have the offers, and now it's even better because the JC year or two doesn't count against your
Doesn't even
eligibility
count against you.
at
Doesn't
the
even count against
NCAA
you
level.
anymore.
So why
Yes.
not?
Crazy.
Why not
Yes.
take advantage
That's
of
crazy.
that? You
That's
know,
Yes.
crazy.
I mean, shoot, I think I have 2 more years of college to play.
I wouldn't dare do it, Jeff. My cleats are on the shelf. I have no way I'm lining up again. Scott still
Believe me, I
plays,
had a
but
hip
not.
replacement within the last year. There's no way I could do it.
No way, man. No way, man. No way. But man, that's crazy. And thank you for sharing because it's always different perspectives. You know what I'm saying? And being from California, because like you said, think about it, Scott, Bakersfield, Steve came from Bakersfield. He's the top running back in the country. Like you said, between California, Texas, Florida, Georgia, those were the huge football states, and also Mississippi with the Gulf Coast, Mississippi Gulf Coast, and all the JCs. So you're right on track with that, man. But I wanna kind of shift it a little bit, but it's right on course because you speak about family. You speak about your father and from Gilroy, right? You went to
Yes.
Gilroy. Yeah. So Scott, I did a little research too. I did a little research, Scott. But I saw the thing with your father, man, and you're absolutely right. I'd also read and heard that you had 4 different coaches, so there was no continuity. There was no system building. There was no trust built. They were in and out, more so rotating. But in addition to that, you have 4 beautiful kids, man, and you have a football player in your daughter, Presley.
Yes.
So how do you feel about that, seeing her thriving in her sport that changed your family's life forever? And give us a brief summary of each one of your kids' personalities, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. So my oldest daughter is Presley, my oldest child. She's 17, junior in high school. She was first team all CIF. So in San Diego, the CIF section for the whole um, county of San Diego, she was first team as a receiver. So she's not a quarterback, but she's a little route runner. And I mean, she runs precision type routes. I mean, you tell a girl to run a hook, she knows what a hook is. She knows what a hitch is. She knows what a corner is. She knows how to break it down, the route depth, all that sort of stuff. But she wanted to play tackle football. And that was right in the COVID years. And so I'm like, well, if tackle football hadn't taken a year or two off, you were probably young enough to where now the boys weren't so big and so different in size and speed. But when went away and Pop Warner came back, she was now in middle school. And I'm like, there's no way I'm letting you play Pop Warner tackle football because these boys are as big as me out there. And they're
Absolutely.
12, 13 years old. It's crazy because when we grew up, it was all about the weight class.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yes.
So it excluded a lot of those kids who were just bigger. They couldn't play tackle football. I like how it is now with giving everybody an opportunity. It's just based upon age. But that being said, she had been playing in the flag football leagues since she was 6, 7 years old. And I was coaching her. And at the time, she was one of the only girls that was out there playing. It was all boys. And she'd be one of the girls that was on my team. And she'd get out there and she was faster than the boys at her age. And we'd give her little reverses and she'd outrun people. And it just was a blast to watch her. Now seeing her able to compete at the high school level, And soon at the collegiate level, she's received some offers already. Now there's small schools, NAIA schools, because that's where women's flag football has really taken off, is in the NAIA division. And there's about 30 schools that currently play women's flag football collegiately.
Wow.
But that being said, now that it's an NCAA emerging sport, I'm in conversation with University of San Diego. I mean, I'll reach out to San Jose State, to San Diego State. Like, when are you guys going to get your girls' flag football team going? And if I can help, let me know. I also was approached just this past week from the women's tackle football conference, and they're starting a team in the Bay Area. And so they've reached out to me about this. And it intrigues me because I don't think Pop Warner for girls is that far behind. I
Mm.
mean, they're going to get to a point where they love flag football so much, they're going to be interested. And you see some girls do crossover and they do play tackle football, but it's very few. But if it were all girls playing against all girls, I think parents would have a different perspective on it. And I think there would definitely be interest. But the flag football game has blown up. Obviously, the Olympics coming out. But my daughter, Presley, sorry, I'm long winded. She's a little bit of a shy girl and reminds me of me in a sense. I was a little bit shy growing up, and how I spoke for myself was on the athletic fields, whether it was playing basketball, baseball, or football. That's how I felt like I was appreciated and how people welcomed me in. I was a redhead, freckle faced kid. I felt a little awkward, but I was an athlete, and that's how she is. She's athletic. She steps out on the field. She competes. It's like that switch turns on and she just gets after it. My two boys come next, Jason, who just turned 16, and Jax, and they're kind of like go with the flow type of guys, very easygoing, happy go lucky. They play sports as well, but they don't have that killer instinct. They don't have that just drive to be ultra competitive. They go out there, they take part in it, which I appreciate. I think it's, no matter what, sports are a great way of building yourself up in confidence, understanding work ethics, setting goals, all the things that sports deliver to us is important for kids, especially with the distractions these days. Believe me, if they had a chance to be on an electronic 24/7, they probably would. And I'd have to grab them by the arm and
Yeah.
throw them outside and say, go outside and play, man. But they get a lot of activity through their school sports. My oldest son, Jason, he's going to go out and try to play quarterback for his high school, but it's a small high school. They play 8-man football, so it's a little bit different, but it fits him. It's a good fit for him because he's not the biggest kid. He's got athleticism, but he's still growing. And I think this will be a good level for him to go out and compete and be able to contribute. My next boy, Jax, I mean, he's a little bit more cool, like too cool for school, kind of has a swagger to him, a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. But he loves the game of soccer. He'd love to play football and soccer. He'll be entering into high school freshman year this next year. And then my youngest is a girl, my daughter, Faith, and she is a volleyball player and would love to play college volleyball. Now it's highly competitive. The club volleyball scene is crazy, but she gets out there and she's got that tenacity. Again, my girls, they just have a different switch that my boys don't have. And so she's, she's everybody's favorite. She's got the personality. She knows how to work a room. She knows how to work her dad and get what she wants, basically. But she's just the one that kind of learned from the olders, but learned how to do it right, and she's just a great girl. We're very blessed, 4 healthy, beautiful children, and they're all active and they're all involved. And tomorrow we have our girls flag football tournament for the league that we played in this off season. And so I run that club program called the North County Stallions. And so we're excited to watch our girls play tomorrow, and I'll be coaching them up.
That's awesome,
Yeah,
man.
good deal, man. Good deal, man. That's amazing. Congratulations to all of them, man, and congratulations for the switch hitters, man. Because the thing about it is, the girls, they always feel like they have something to prove. You know, the guys, like you said, too cool for school. So that's pretty dope, man. That's pretty cool. The
Yeah.
yeah, man, that's amazing. After San Jose, you get an opportunity to go to the CFL. Like you said, it wasn't really a whole lot of things happening, but you get to go to the CFL. You sign with the Calgary Stampeders. What was your mindset once you crossed the border? And, talk about how the CFL and how was it, backing up, a Hall of Famer as in Doug Flutie.
I, you know, from at the beginning, I guess there was a little bit of disappointment, feeling discouraged a little bit about not being looked at by the NFL, especially coming out of the collegiate career that I had, and then the East West Shrine game at the time was a big all-star game, and I was the MVP of the game and really competed well against some of the top players in the country, but yet overlooked, right? And so I mean, I didn't put a whole lot of weight in the fact that I wasn't going to be able to play in the NFL, that I was going to the CFL, because what I looked at it, especially at 23 years old, was an opportunity to continue to do what I love to do. I was going to get paid a little bit of money, but I was going to do what I had been doing as a kid since I was 9 years old. And to be able to continue to do that as an adult or a young adult now, I felt blessed, right? And so I had to make the team, though. I mean, they had Doug Flutie, who everybody knew about, obviously Heisman Trophy winner, great CFL player, MVP, Grey Cup winner. Then we had Steve Taylor out of Nebraska, who I remember watching him on Saturday college football play and lead Nebraska with the option, and just very athletic and strong arm. And he had been in the league for about 6 years. So I was actually competing with another rookie to be the third string quarterback on that team, not even to be the backup to Doug. And so it came down to one preseason game. I had one quarter to play in that preseason game, and I was effective. It was like, here's my opportunity. Are you ready for it? Are you going to take advantage of it, or is it going to pass you by? And for me, fortunately, that was the difference between me making that team and the other guy making the team, because there was a lot of interest in the other kid. He threw a nice ball. He was athletic. And I was struggling to throw that Canadian football initially, man. It just was fat and
The
nasty
wider, yes.
and wider. And I couldn't throw a spiral to save my life. And it would come out ugly looking. And I'm like, dang. And then finally, though, I made it happen in that preseason game. And that's what really drove the offensive coordinator to choose me over the other kid and give me a chance to be the third guy on the team. It's funny, when I got my contract from the GM and head coach, GM/head coach, Wally Buono from Calgary, he sent a 2-year contract, which had an option year attached to it, right? I didn't really I didn't really have an agent. I didn't really have representation. He was handling it between him and myself. So he sent that, FedEx or whatever was being used back then, sent it to my parents' home, and I signed first year. I didn't sign the second year. So I signed the first year and I sent it back. And he called my parents' house after he received it. And he goes, "Hey, Jeff, that was a 2-year contract with an option year. You only signed the first year." And I said, "Well, coach, I want to go to the NFL and I don't want to overcommit myself to multiple years." And he kind of scoffed. He laughed at me. He goes, "Jeff, you aren't playing in the NFL. And this is your only contract. You either sign the second year or you don't have an opportunity here."
Business.
Okay.
Okay.
Contract, sent it back. So then when I make the team, and he said that, you made the team, I'm not going to put you on the practice squad. We'll put you on the reserve list, but I'm going to need you to take a pay cut from 50,000 Canadian to 40,000 Canadian. And already the dollar, which is still, I mean, it was like 70 cents on the dollar, right? So like for every dollar Canadian, you're really making only 70 cents American. And so Like, what was I going to do? Okay, coach, where do I sign? Sign the contract. So that first year, I just watched the entire season. I watched Doug play. He lit it up. Steve was a good quarterback, just really didn't get a lot of opportunities on the field. And then the next year, I had my opportunity because Steve Taylor left to another team. I became the backup to Doug. And midway through that season, Doug had an elbow injury that sidelined him for about 8 weeks. And during that run, I went 8-1 as the starter of the Stampeders and essentially led our team to the Grey Cup, which Doug came back for and played in. I didn't get to play in that Grey Cup game, but he played. We ended up losing to the only year that the CFL is not owned the Grey Cup trophy by a Canadian team. The Baltimore Stallions have the CFL Grey Cup in that year, 1995. And
Wow.
so that was the brief transition that the CFL tried to make coming into the States with spreading out teams throughout the US, and it didn't last long, but unfortunately we gave up the cup to the Stallions. And then Doug went on. Doug went on to Toronto the next year. I became the starter in Calgary, and that's all she wrote, man. I loved it. I loved playing in Calgary. I loved the game of the Canadian Football League. I really thought that was going to be my 10 to 15 year career. Probably marry a Canadian woman and live in Calgary for the rest of my life. And then all of a sudden we win a Grey Cup in 98 and things changed for me. The doors opened to the NFL and I took it.
Yeah, man. That's
Absolutely.
awesome, man. That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's we all know about that dollar, man. You know, Jeff, I still live in Edmonton. I ended up marrying a Canadian woman. I was that guy. And so,
There you go.
yeah, 70
I
cents
don't
on
know
the
how
dollar.
I escaped, man. I
I don't
loved
know either.
Calgary and I loved all of it, man. I don't know how
I don't know how you escaped
taking
either,
that
man. It's
step
rough.
too.
It's rough out here. It's rough out here, Jeff. I don't know how you escaped, boy. I tell you. These Canadian women, man.
Oh my God. This guy.
So, but look, man, January 2003. I know this is probably obviously one of the highlights of your professional football career, that 2002 season, but in that playoff game against the New York Giants. And I remember watching the game because that year I was on the practice squad, but Zach Bronson had got hurt like 2 weeks left in the season, and they had to bring in another DB. So then I get the knock on the shoulder. Hey man, we gotta let you go, but we want to sign. We want to bring you back, but we gotta let you go. But it is what it is. So, but I remember watching this game. You're down 38-14 at one point. And be honest with us here. What was going through your head, and did you actually believe at that point that you can mount up a comeback?
With the way they were playing, and if they would have kept their foot on the gas, I don't think we would have been able to come back. I didn't feel like they were necessarily stopping us as their defense and our offense. We were moving the ball. We had some success, but they just were unstoppable. They were doing anything and everything they wanted on our D for darn near 3 quarters.
Yeah.
And then they kind of pulled back a little bit, started to become more conservative, started to just run the football. We went into a no huddle 2-minute mode with 8 minutes or so left in the third quarter. And that's where we started to find a rhythm. We moved the ball down the field, scored a touchdown, and hit T.O. on a little shallow cross. Then we hit the 2-point conversion. And I felt like at that point, okay, we're down 16 with an entire quarter left to play. We can do this. We can do this. But we're going to need some stops by our defense in order to do so. Yeah. And that's where the transition just took place. There was a key play in that game by New York's offense and Jeremy Shockey. We're down 24. Well, we're down 21 at the time. Down 21. They're driving. They're inside the 5 or 10 yard line, and they throw a crossing route in the back of the end zone to Shockey. Hits him in the hands, drops it.
Yeah.
they would have gone up 28 points at that time in the third quarter. 28 points. Now you're looking at 4 scores, and I know New England did it versus Atlanta in the Super Bowl, and I don't know how Atlanta ever gave that up. But that being said, 28, 4 touchdowns with a little over a quarter and a half left. You don't even know if you're going to get the ball 4 times, right?
Absolutely.
With that much time left. So they ended up kicking a field goal. So realistically, it's 3 touchdowns and 3 2-point conversions if you want to get back in it and tie it. That being said, we cut it to 16 with still a full quarter left, and our defense started to rise up with the combination of them starting to pull back, and then we got the ball back again. Then here we go, 2-minute offense, no huddle. We strike one more time. Now, and I believe we got the 2-point conversion again. Now we're down 8. Now, they missed a field goal prior to the last play of the game, so they missed 2 field goals in the fourth quarter, both because of bad snaps. The one he did get kicked off, got it kicked off, but he shanked it because the ball was fumbled at first by the holder, and then he got it down, shanked it. So we got a field goal in the fourth quarter, and we got the 2 touchdowns that gave us the lead. Obviously, the last touchdown in the last 2 minutes of the game, hitting Ty Streets on a little bang post, double post type route combination, and he made a great catch, and I put it in a place, fortunately, behind back shoulder because the corner was kind of trying to cut him off. And, you know, it was just, for me, that moment in Candlestick was like one of those moments you wish you could bottle up and have forever. The feeling in that crowd, the stadium. Now, a lot of those fans, and not a lot, but a third of those fans left the stadium when we were down 24. And they were trying to get back in the stadium because they heard things happening. So whoever left missed out. And it was a roller coaster ride of emotions for them. But for us as football players, it's almost like you got to deflect the pressure, right? You got to learn how to deflect pressure. And in that moment, with, say, a whole quarter left and down 16, the pressure was on the Giants to control the clock, to control the ball. They started to tighten up and play in a different manner. And my offensive perspective was, they got to stop us. Hey, they should win the game. They're up 20. We got nothing to lose. And so there was a feeling of like calmness on the sideline that was just like, let's just go take care of business. We're capable. We're capable of doing this. We just got to plug plays in, consecutive plays, move the chains, do the things that are necessary in order to get points on the board. And then the ending was just obviously an all-time classic. But, you know, and they can bitch and complain about how it should have went, but it didn't go that way, and it went our way, and that's all that matters.
All that matters. Got that dub, baby.
I just remember they were upset. They were so furious. They were ready to fight. I remember when somebody attacked T.O. on the sideline.
Oh, yeah, there were some.
Oh, they were mad.
Yeah, after I threw an interception on the last 2-point conversion.
That's what happened. Yeah,
and they ran it out of the end zone, and I don't even know if at that time you could even get 2 points. I think they were blowing the whistle, and T.O. came and nailed the guy. He was out of bounds, I think, already.
Yeah,
and then their players came and jumped on T.O. Well, their player ended up getting kicked out of the game. Cost them a 15-yard penalty on the kickoff, which should have worked to our advantage, but we damn near gave up the game at the end there with them driving down the field. But that being said, it got crazy in the last couple minutes. There was a lot of some pushing, some shoving, some disqualifications, and it was a great day.
Hey, just before I let Judge Jackie take over here, just really quick, I just remember during my time there in 2002, like that was a very professional organization. The receiving core, you know, you had J.J. Stokes, Ty Streets, Terrell Owens, Cedric Wilson, and I just remember, I just appreciate the professionalism. That was where I really learned how to be a pro. You know, every time they caught the ball, no matter where, obviously it started from Jerry Rice, they went and scored. And I just remember that's where I think I grew up. I was like, oh, this is how you work.
Yeah,
You see this is what being a professional is about. I remember seeing Terrell Owens and like, oh my God, look at this guy's body. And he's out here working like an animal.
yeah,
Like JJ Stokes, you know, who I grew up watching when he was at UCLA. So it was just, I was in awe of how these guys prepared, man. And so just that was
absolutely.
just, yeah, it was top notch for sure, man. Yeah. I don't know if you ever had another chance to play with a group like that. What would you say? Like, I guess compared to the other guys you played with.
Yeah, I don't think there was a work ethic around the league that was
Mhm.
equal to what those guys did on
Yeah.
a daily basis,
Yeah.
and that all started with Jerry Rice and John Taylor and those receivers of the 80s and just how they approached every single day in practice, just
Mm-hmm.
finishing every catch. I
Yeah.
try to get players today just to run 5 yards after the catch. Half the
Yeah.
time they catch the ball and start running back to the quarterback, and I'm like,
Uh,
what are
go
you
score.
doing?
I
Score.
know.
Turn
I
and
know.
score. Man, you got to get used to turning and trying to score, man. You got to quit bringing the ball back to the quarterback. That being said, every play they would take it, so we'd be waiting on them to come back to the huddle,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes it's an 80-yard run they would do. But
Yeah.
those guys, they pushed each other. They worked extremely hard, and you see the payoff with how Jerry obviously played, and then how T.O. played, the runs after the catch. The guy was just a beast. Guys couldn't tackle him one on one. I mean, he would flat out straight arm you, shove you into the ground, and just run through you and then run away from you. He
Mm.
had a tweaked groin, I think, in that playoff game against the Giants.
Yeah.
And our first pass of the game, I hit him on a hook and he
Yeah.
ping ponged off the linebacker and the DB and then outruns everybody to the end zone with a tweaked groin. And
Yeah.
like, you
Yeah.
know, if he got timed in a 40, he probably was a legit 4.5, maybe a 4.6 guy. But
Mm.
those guys were faster on the field, just like Jerry. Jerry never timed a 40 great, but
Mm.
nobody ever caught him when they were behind him on the
Mm.
football field.
Mm.
It just
Mm.
they turned it on to another level. And yeah, there wasn't another group of receivers in the NFL that I saw work
Mm.
like they worked.
Well, Jeff, just to, really quick, I don't know, we went to Osaka, Japan in
Mhm.
2002 preseason game, and it was a free agent receiver named Michael Jennings. He had a short stint with the Giants as well, and he was a track guy from Florida State. And his 40 time, the reason why the 49ers signed him, he ran a 4.30. And so we were watching film, and Mike T.O. was ahead of Mike. And so on the film, so T.O. was like, "Dang, Mike, you're supposed to be this world class sprinter. I'm in front of you." So they start arguing on who's the fastest. So they actually raced at practice on that. I remember in Osaka, Japan, in a 50, and this guy was a 4.30 guy, and T.O. beat him
Mhm.
by it
Yeah.
was close, but he beat him.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, for sure, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Well,
That
go ahead,
ang-
Jackie, man.
that angry speed he had, man. He ran, I used to say that dude runs with anger,
Yeah,
He runs
yep.
violently I mean in the heart of his career when he was his best. I mean, he just ran with like that mentality like you are not going to pull me down,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, man. Yeah.
Definitely. He's a different athlete. Definitely, Well, man, thank you for sharing that, Jeff. Just following up, and this is very important for today's time, and the present athletes. The question that I'm about to share, but many understand it, but they don't understand what it brings. But you were someone, you were in a high profile relationship and marriage at one point, which led you to having, your children. What advice would you give a young professional in a high profile relationship in this day and age?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a lot more difficult these days because everybody's got their phones out, everybody's like publicizing what you're doing. There's really no sense of privacy, right? And
Absolutely.
it almost forces you to change your mentality as to what you're willing to share and what you're not willing to share and how you're going to expose yourself and open yourself up to the rest of the world, knowing that you could be put on blast at any time, right? And so, for me at that time, knowing Carmela had a background of Playboy, and as much as that was the early start of a modeling career for her, it also was prior to me becoming involved with her. So she had already done that, done the photo shoots, done all those things. She was now on her little run of Playmate of the Year and those sort of things. But for me, initially, it was a little bit awkward, a little bit uncomfortable, because I did not want my relationship to be so public, but due to the nature of who we were and what I was at the time, being an NFL quarterback, and what she was at the time, it obviously became a topic of a conversation that people would talk about. That being said, I think that, looking back and looking at today's world, I mean, it's a difficult place to be living in the sense of what people have as far as their connection to you. Everybody wants to be connected to these high profile athletes. There's more ways to be in contact with these professional athletes. And I think it really takes having, and as much as I didn't do this back in the day, because I was really looking at myself as just a kid from a small town, Gilroy, grew up on a farm. I'm just like anybody else, but I'm just living a dream in what I do. And I didn't really have the proper, maybe, security or the proper protection around me in the way that I should have. And I think players today, I think, are better prepared for that, knowing what is out there and how people are trying to take advantage of or be a part of. And I think they really do have to look at who they surround themselves with, and also protecting themselves with the right people so that they don't get taken advantage of and they don't make maybe some of the mistakes that, guys have continued to make, but even I made during my time. uh, Different things, whether it's brushes with the law or public, how you handle yourself in public, or how you handle certain things that you're surrounded by, whether it's being at a party, being associated with other people of high recognition. And so, it's just funny because every kid wants publicity these days with how social media is, how Instagram, how all the sites are. Every kid is looking for that immediate gratification of I'm a star, and showcasing themselves. And then all of a sudden, you may get there. You never know. You may get there to where you are a star, and now all of a sudden, everybody it's coming at you in waves. And how are you going to handle that? And it's tough. I mean, hey, mentally, it's tough. Emotionally, it's tough. And as much as it's a great thing to have, the the power coming to you with the ability to be successful financially or be successful in your job professionally, it also comes with a price, and that's where you really got to be protective of what you expose yourself to.
Yeah, you can't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, can't get away with nothing these days, man.
No.
I was just looking at this thing with Stephon Diggs, and he was on that boat. It honestly, and that wasn't a phone. That was somebody, though, because you got those camera glasses now,
Right?
And the way those were looking at those, man, I think if I had a party, I'm frisking people for wires, man.
I mean, we were in Osaka, Japan, in the bar with all the cheerleaders, dancing on the bar, doing all the things, acting like clowns, being obnoxious, having a good time, But today, that's going to be on, all
TMZ.
TMZ. You're going to be front and center, and you better not fall, because you for sure.
No, yeah, they gonna get
out
you,
there.
man.
But yeah, man, I can't imagine like kids or young people these days, young professionals, and just I mean, the awareness that they have to have, right? The
Absolutely.
awareness that they need to have in order to protect themselves and, not put themselves in a situation that could be damaging, you
Yeah,
know?
definitely,
Absolutely.
man. Definitely, man. Well, man, as we're almost coming to a head here, but 5 years in the CFL, 11 years in the NFL. Lots of highs. I think more highs than lows. Um, and obviously, I think most of the lows were towards the end. I would say probably of your career. The inconsistency. But I think anytime you can play professional football, I really don't look at it as a low because, like we said, if you're getting paid to play, there's nothing like that, man. To play a game we loved as kids, but you did have you had a great career, man. And how has the transition been, for Jeff Garcia from the locker room to the realities of life? How has that been for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not always easy, right? I think one of the things that we try to figure out is what's our next purpose, what's our next passion in life. And football was such a major part of my life and my livelihood and being able to have a career in it and be successful and be financially successful, but yet coming out of the game and still being young. I mean, I was early 40s when I finished, but I was felt young. I felt like I still have so much to offer. Now, where am I going to put my energy and passion into? And I dabbled in the coaching. I coached in Montreal in the CFL for one season. And then that led to me coaching with the last year that the Rams were in St. Louis under Jeff Fisher for 1 year. But I quickly realized, as much as I thought that would be my next path and that I would, hey, climb the mountain quickly and I'd become a head coach in the NFL, I also saw the sacrifice that coaches
Mm,
were making in their own
mhm,
personal families. And
mhm,
I had four young kids, like all under 5 years old, six under 6 years old, four kids under 6 years old when I went to St. Louis. And my wife at the time stayed here in San Diego. She didn't want to go and be together. So I was there by myself and I just saw where this is not going to lead to the happiness that I want to have in my life and
mhm,
also the happiness that I want to enjoy with my kids. And so
mhm,
I had to make a decision after that year that coaching wasn't my thing for right now, that I need to be a dad and I want to be a dad. And that's where I'm going to put my focus and energy. And so I did that and I coached their teams and I did all those things. But now I'm at that point where my kids are now teenagers and I'm still trying to figure out what are the next steps for me? What do I
mhm,
want to be involved in? What
mhm.
what gets me going each morning? What do I
Yeah.
wake up and feel that fire for?
Mhm,
Because I don't want to just be like rolling through life uncertain or unsure of what the next day would bring. Yeah, I could be retired, but it's not comfortable for me right now. Like I
mhm,
want doing things that are inspiring people. And so I've volunteered to be the offensive coordinator coach at a local high school. So I'm coaching them this year. It'll be my first year with the team. I'm excited about that. And then I started a club program for girls flag football for 17U, 14U, and 12U. So we developed that this past season. And that's where I'm also involved in coaching young girls how to play the game of football. And so those things have brought the passion that I've had my entire life for the game of football. And now I'm sharing it with the young people, with people that are still impressionable, people that can still be, inspired and coached up. They're not putting their hand out for an NIL deal that they're
yeah,
expecting or expecting to be told they're the best thing since sliced bread. No, these are
mm,
young people that are just trying to find their own way, trying to navigate through sports. And I want to help them. I want to inspire them to be better than what they ever thought they could be. And so that's really what the transition has brought me into now. It took me a while to figure it out and to find it and to be in a place where I'm feeling more satisfied with where I'm at in my life. I still have a dad, my dad, at 83 years old, still gets on a tractor every day and goes and does jobs for other people. mowing down their weeds, disking their fields. The guy has purpose every single day. People count on him and he
Mm.
shows up and he
Mm.
loves it. And it's what keeps him motivated. And I
Yeah.
think about him and I'm like, damn, I'm lazy, man. I'm lazy compared to my dad. Like, my dad is like setting the bar way too high, man. Like, Dad, you don't have to do every job, okay? Just do the ones that are easy, man. But
Yeah.
that's my dad. I mean, he loves to just do it for people and show up for people, and it keeps him going. But, you know, he's an inspiration. He's an
Mm.
inspiration. He motivates me to want to be better and be better in the community and to give back and to put on camps and do the things that I can do to share my abilities, my knowledge, and the adversity, the challenges that I overcame in my life to, hey, nobody in high school could have told you that I would have been an NFL quarterback.
Mm.
Nobody, not even myself.
Yeah.
And even at the collegiate level, I don't think that there were a whole lot of people that would have thought that I would have 11 years, 16 years total in professional football. But
Mm.
man, somehow I did it. Somehow I kept climbing and pursuing and putting the work in and not taking no for an answer, actually using that to fuel my fire to prove people wrong. And I love that,
Mm-hmm. I love it.
and that's what drove me. And that's how I just willed it. And, we were able to experience practice and games and stuff together. Scotty, you probably saw just my approach, man. I just
Yeah.
was intense on the practice field. I expected perfection. I never wanted to see the ball hit the ground. I wanted to be perfect with my timing, with my throw, every throw. I wanted to be 100% in practice because that was the effort I needed to have in order to show that that I was capable and I could do that on Sundays.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
man. That's awesome.
Yeah,
You got me ready, man. I'm ready. You got me ready.
fired up over here, Scott.
I'm gonna go on and helmet, man.
Because that's what it's about, man. Finding your purpose, and that's one of the big things we speak about on the platform, man. So, Jeff, thank you for sharing that. I just have one more question, man, and I'll let Scott get his question. But my last question, and then we'll wrap it up, I think, after Scott. But my last question was, you signed a 4-year deal for the Cleveland Browns in 2004, but you were released after the first, your first year. To me, as we know, big mistake by them, but you got something better out of the deal. Like you said, you met your wife, you had your children. I look at that as in, okay, God's timing. How would you have you always seen it in that perspective of how would you view that time, even though it may seem, if you are someone on the outside looking in, like you said, oh man, Jeff Garcia got released. But being there, knowing the real situation, knowing what was coming, and meeting your wife, and like I said, leading to the children, how did you view that at that time?
Yeah, it was as as far as football is concerned, it was a difficult time.
Right.
Going to Cleveland, really believing that I could help resurrect that team, that program, but also realizing the facts as we were going through it that Cleveland has struggled year in and year out, and there's a reason why they struggle. It just doesn't start with the players on the field. It starts above them with
Absolutely.
management, with ownership, all the things. And as much as that was a disappointing year, I do find the the gratification of the fact that I have the family that I have, the 4 kids that I have, and the wife that I had in Carmela, and how we were able to build something special together. I mean, that year and the Detroit year were both struggles, and both were very similar organizations consistently making poor decisions. And
Absolutely.
both those years ended up with the head coaches not even finishing the season. Butch Davis was resigned with 4 games left. I only went to Detroit because Coach Mariucci was there, and there was that connection. I had a chance that year to go to Denver, and I chose not to because Denver had Jake Plummer, who had been the starter. And as much as I think I could have competed with Jake, he was the starter returning, whereas Detroit had the kid out of Oregon who was
Joey Harrington.
Harrington, first round draft pick, but Mooch was ready to pull the hook on him and was going to give me a chance to compete for that spot. And what ended up happening is I break my fibula in the final preseason game out in Buffalo. So I missed the first 8 weeks of the season, and right away, like it was like the wind was let out of the sail, especially with a lot of those coaches that came from the 49er staff. I knew all the offensive coaches were ex 49er guys. So that's where my connection was. And it was just an unfortunate thing. But Cleveland and Detroit for football were both very difficult years. But the blessing of it all was that I did meet Carmela. I did get married to her. We did have 4 great kids that I'm blessed with. And so it's not always going to mean your professional career is going the right direction, but things can happen off the field that are truly positive and truly a blessing. And that's how I have to look at those 2 years. I can't sit here and say, oh, I wish I would have done it differently, because then I wouldn't have the family that I have and the kids that I have.
Yeah.
But that being said, I do wish I would have went to Denver. Already had Carmel at that point. So then I would have got to play in Shanahan's system, man.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Definitely, man. That's what I was thinking when you mentioned Denver. I was like, dang, you could have played with Shanahan, right? So,
Yeah.
but man, oh, sorry, you had something, Jackie? But as we wrap this up, Jeff, we asked all our guests this question. If you can go back and have a conversation with, say, 30 to 35-year-old Jeff Garcia, what's the best advice would you give him, and what would that conversation look like?
I would say to really open up your network of opportunities, utilizing the game of football, but now transitioning that to learning more about business and people that are successful in business, and putting in the time and effort to learn, and not just allow other people to dictate the path of whether it was my financial investments, my decisions in life outside of the game. I think the other thing is too is I was living that somewhat of the single life for much of my career. I didn't get married until later in my career. And, so I allowed myself to be open up to probably influences that weren't always the best, kind of just living by the seat of my pants at times, enjoying a good time. I think about just how I could have been in better control of my own actions, and how I could have utilized, especially in San Francisco, playing for the 49ers, being the quarterback of that team in the Bay Area, connecting with Silicon Valley, connecting with startup companies or the tech companies of the world that were really starting to take off, with Google and Microsoft and all those, powerful game-changing companies. And I was right in that backyard and really didn't utilize it. And I think also being able to reach out to some of the older hats that had already gone through the game, and really ask for some mentorship, some direction as to maybe the things that they would have changed or done differently, or the things that they're doing currently that could be positive. And I was almost like, and I wouldn't say timid, but it's almost like I didn't want to bother anybody else. I'll figure it out. I'll do it on my own. And I had so many just great resources at my disposal that I probably didn't take advantage of the way that I could have. And I'm not saying that, hey, I've not fulfilled or lived up to the life that I've wanted to live, but I think there could have been really some things that I could have learned and grew with during that time that would have allowed maybe my transition from football to everyday life be a little bit more smooth or be a little bit more active, and maybe I would have started up my own business in some way, or maybe I would have been connected with some sort of resources that I would have been a part of, and just things I think about today. But hey, it's not too late. It's not
Mm-hmm.
too late. I could still manufacture and create those opportunities. I think that the current athlete today is doing a much better job of
Mm-hmm.
that, preparing themselves for life after the game. Obviously, they're making more money than you can throw a stick at, and they probably don't have to do anything after their game life of football. But that being said, hey, they're building businesses, they're building connections, they're building relationships that are key to their livelihood after the game, and they're using their brand. They're doing a great job of building their brand. I don't think I focused on my own brand much and didn't really build anything. I mean, Michael Jordan was the initial like poster child of how you truly build a brand, and you know, not everybody's Michael. Obviously, Michael Jordan is a rare exception as far as the athlete that he was, but you talk about a brand that he built that is forever going
Mm-hmm.
to feed and fuel his family for the rest of not only his life, but his kids' lives and their kids' lives and so on. The legacy that he built off the court with what he did on the court. And I think that's something that players are doing better today, and something that I think about that I could have done better while I was in the middle of it.
Yeah, that's great advice, man. You sound like it was like that's the same advice I would have gave myself. You know, so yeah,
Because we've
man.
all been through it. We've all been through it. Like you said, you were young. We were making a lot of money. We were in places of influence. I mean, totally understood. Totally
Sure.
understood. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, man. So Scott, you have anything?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, wrap it up.
Well, man, Jeff, man, we just want to say thank you, man. Like this is what it's about, man. And I just sit here, and Scott always makes me wrap it up, but I try to take my notes throughout, man. So I just want to reflect and just on some things that you shared with us, man. And the greatest thing that me and Scott always talk about is like now we've all been married, went through our divorces. We all have kids, and now, you get into the fatherhood. But your transitional statement is very powerful because most people can't recognize that. And so for you to really understand, like you said, the fire, the adversities, the early stages, because you could have easily threw the towel in. You think about there 4 different offensive coordinators, not really being recruited, getting the injury early. So it's kind of the long path, if so to speak. But just to know that you had somebody like your father in your life, I'm pretty sure your mom was there. Whatever support system that you had, it was like, hey, just, and he was showing you every day, just keep pushing, just put one foot in front of the other. And what your father is still showing you. You said something so pivotal earlier, also with the ego. Oh man, we walk around. A lot of people, that's our problem. It's not who we are, but a lot of times being in the NFL, that's who we walked around as. We didn't walk around as individuals. We walked around with the shield. And the thing that you stated that's so important, and when I say this, it probably will make you laugh. When you say, I didn't make the best decisions, you was kind of fly by the seat of my pants, but you said your 2 sons are just like that. So you see what I'm saying? So it's like it comes back to us because my kids are like that. I'm a laid back guy. I don't really do all of this type of stuff. I'm very like you. I don't want to be around a lot of people. I don't like crowds, but my kids, I'd be like, where you get that from? And my mother, that's you. So having that resemblance, man, and having that, the memories. But for the most part, man, I think you have found your purpose. And like you said, helping your daughters, helping these young women, helping those schools. And like you say, just one step at a time, figuring out what makes sense to you, man, it's just commendable. And as Scott, prior to us getting on here, we were excited about it because we've all been right there. You see, and so, man, to have a 15-year career, to do it the way you've done it, you've won at every level. You've had success at every level. Like now, like you said, you now get to say, you know what? It may not been the way I thought, but I still did it. And it was your story. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So to have taken, as they say, the road less traveled, not being the big recruit, not being the the perennial quarterback that they knew nothing of, man, it's an honor. It really is an honor to sit here, to share your accolades, to speak, your truth, to share your story. But most of all, it's the man you are now. And that's the biggest thing, man. And so for Locker Room, to reality, this is what it's about. It's really what it's about. Being able to be vulnerable, like you said, really recognizing like, hey, I need something, because everyone's dealt with that. When you leave that game, we're so dependent upon those people in that locker room, for the brotherhood, for the friendships, for camaraderie, like you said, for the business, for the network, for the net worth. It's so many things, man. So from me to you, from D.R.E.A.M.S Podcast, and Scott, I'll let you say something. Jeff, this has been an absolute honor, man. Absolute honor. And I think there couldn't be a better person to represent, for the flag football, or helping those colleges getting to their, programs of the flag football, and helping these young people find purpose and passion, man. So I really, really appreciate your time. I really appreciate your story. And man, this is one of a kind. This is one of a kind.
One of a kind.
I do appreciate it. Yes.
Yeah.
Jackie, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, you made me want to go put my helmet on, Jeff. You had me fired up a little bit. Hey, you got a little John Gruden in you, man.
Yeah,
a little bit. But as we
I keep it honest. I keep it honest.
Yeah.
I'm not shooting BS up.
Exactly. No, man, but man, hey, Jeff, thank you for your time, brother. It's just I was just sitting here reflecting as we wrap it up. It's just 1993. My best friend growing up, R.B. Bonner. It's like, man, we got this quarterback, Jeff Garcia. Because he went to San Jose State with you, and he's telling me about this guy. I'm like, oh, okay. And then fast forward, my cousin Fred Bailey is playing with you at the Calgary Stampeders. He's like, man, we got this quarterback, Jeff Garcia. I was like, oh, I remember hearing about this guy. And then in 2002, I get a chance to get on the field with you. It's just it's such a small world, man, and how everything intertwines, man. But no, man, here again, we want to thank you. Thank you again. And Jeff, what are your social medias, where people can follow you and follow your daughter's journey?
Really, Instagram, Jeff Garcia QB5. You'll see posts of my daughter. I usually share her Instagram too. I don't know if she wants, but she loves when I highlight her little individual success. And then I have the NC Stallions flag football, which we're not real active on. We need to learn to be more active on with Instagram and social media. I mean, that's still something that I am trying to adapt to. It just doesn't come natural, man. So
yeah, no, man.
That's pretty much the one that I focus on.
Awesome, man. Well, man, hey, this is an amazing episode. I think this is definitely one for the books, man. D.R.E.A.M.S Podcast, Locker Room to Reality. This is what it's all about. We had a true legend on here today, a true warrior, like I stated earlier, man. Just a guy who did it at the highest level. And we're just honored to have you, man. So another episode down, man. You guys have an amazing day. From D.R.E.A.M.S Podcast to you guys. Hey, you guys be blessed.
All right, my man.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott.
All right, man.